Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.
Welcome to Great Taste. You're telling me to smile? Okay, I'm going to do it. Oh, everybody. Okay, you guys have just been told to smile. Hi, I'm Steve Boss, your host for 60 Minutes of Delicious Radio, TV, whatever this is. And this is our regular monthly show at Green Building Supply, the first Tuesday of every month. That means you guys can clap now, so do that. That's great. Okay. We're here for our holiday special, and we are coming to you also on YouTube, that's right? Fairfield Media Center, and also, you didn't know this, but I'm going to tell you right now, talking to Jason Strong, our producer, that we're going to also send this to KICI, 105.3 in Iowa City. They've already started broadcasting my show, and they're going to be continuing to do it, so we're going to have them doing this on a monthly basis too. So, welcome all of our listeners in Iowa City too, and everybody that you see back here has something to do with this show in the next 60 minutes. And I'm lucky enough to just get these latkes off the stove because they were starting to say, why aren't you watching me? So when you get a chance, I need that plate back so that I can put those on them. That's perfect. So we have all kinds of things going on this holiday special. Thank you so much. And everybody's going to take a role at some point in time, but we're going to start off with Fran Clark. So all you guys can just take a rest for a minute, and I'll call you when it's time, right? So this is Fran Clark. She is the puff pastry queen of Fairfield, Iowa. How many years have you been doing this? Because I know it's a while.
Really? Gosh, I don't know, 3 or 4, but I've probably made 200 batches. When I have nothing better to do, I just say, I gotta make myself some puff pastry. It's so much fun. Almost anyone can make a pie crust. This is so much more fun, so much easier. Anyone who says it's hard to make puff pastry, I don't know, it's a giant scam. There's almost nothing easier than making puff pastry. When I make it at home, Thank you so much. Everything is very sort of controlled as to temperature. That's why I push that away. It's easiest to make in a coolish environment, so not in the hot summer days, because you got butter, which of course wants to go everywhere. So the recipe, first of all, it's a 3-to-1 ratio. 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1/4 of a cup of ice water. A generous 1/4 of a cup, throw an extra tablespoon or 2 in there. Dough rolled out, just real simple. And maybe 11 by 6, something like that. And then this is an extremely forgiving recipe. There's almost nothing that you can do to screw this up. And so you take a stick of butter.
Can you just wait 1 second, okay? Because I just want to say, see, I'm not the only one who uses a lot of butter. I just want you to know that, okay?
This is a very calorie-dense, dessert. Stick of butter cut lengthwise, 3 pieces. You put it on the right-hand side of your piece of pastry that you've rolled out, and you close it up. You close it like a book. That'll be important. You just fold it in half. Blam. And then all the measuring and thinking and worrying is done at this point. And then it's all fun. This is so much fun. Puff pastry is 6 rolls, 6 turns and folds in total. If anybody wants to do the math, you fold it 6 times, 3 folds each. It's around 700 and something layers of butter. So you roll it out so simple. Not totally controlled environment here, a little warm. So you roll it out to maybe roughly the same 11 by 6, doesn't matter. And then, so we started out, we folded it like a book. One fold, closed it like a book. Now we're going to fold it like a letter or a brochure. We fold it in thirds. So we've just tripled the number of layers of butter. That's 1, and okay, so we just fold it like that. And then we turn it 90 degrees. You just turn it like that. The reason you do that is the butter is going to try to escape. That's what butter does. And now you're pushing it against a different set of folds than you were, so you have a little bit of protection against it getting out. Now, you do this 6 times total. Now, most people, according to the recipes, would at this point have put it in the refrigerator to give it some rest, to cool it down. Once I get going on this, I just can't stop. And you can put it in the refrigerator after 2 turns. So I was doing the 2 turns times 3 for a long time, and I thought, 2 turns, 3 turns, what's the difference? Do 3 turns. And I'm just kind of moving it around. And then I did 3 turns before I put it in the refrigerator, and then I did 4 turns. And then there was a time I thought, I'm going all the way. And I did all 6 turns. So I can make one of these things completed in about 10 minutes. But I've done this hundreds of times. If you're just starting out, do what the recipe book says. You put it in the refrigerator, go away for an hour, come back. So I've done 1 turn. It's easy to forget how many turns you've done. You poke a little hole. Not a hole, a little impression.
Oh, so you just poked a little impression in your dough just to remind yourself.
Because I usually do all 6 folds, you get up, you got some music, you take a phone call, and I go, oh, is it 3 folds or 4 folds? So, so now I'm doing the second of 6 turns, and I keep doing this. The butter is starting to get a little bit warm. So at this point, I might put it in the refrigerator. I'm going to pause here for just a minute. I've done 2, and tell you what I do with it. So let's say I've got it, and this freezes very well. You just put it in the freezer, and then you got instant gifts for unexpected parties. So what I will do is freeze it, take it out the night before, it thaws in the refrigerator, and so I can roll it out fairly, maybe to the size of almost like a cookie sheet, parchment paper, and I have one of my favorite things is pesto, a good quantity of pesto. Push it gently almost all the way to the edge, and then you roll it like a jelly roll. And then cut. And then bake them. And I will get 20 to 30 of these out of each batch, depending on whether I want thick, how many people I think I'm serving. The other thing that's
It's interesting because on this side, you can see the jelly roll type of, with the pesto. This side, I don't know why it leaked through a little bit.
No, it doesn't leak through. It just it's there. I actually flip it over midway through, so both sides are kind of the same. The other thing that I also brought that's also my favorite is you rolled out not as large as the pesto, maybe the size of a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, just whatever. And then I also brought this, almost anything in the middle. What I have tonight is apples and dates and almonds, but you can put, again, pesto, you can put Nutella and cream cheese, no one's judging. You can put a spinach thing, anything, put that in the middle third, and then I'll cut kind of flaps on the side, and then you just fold it like that, and then bake it. Puff pastry needs to be baked at a high temperature, so I bake it at 425, just watch it really, really carefully, and with that strudel thing in the middle with the flaps, I cut that after it's baked, whereas with these guys, I cut them before they're baked, so they bake individually. So bake at high temperature. If you put it in by mistake too low, 350, you forget, the first thing that happens is the butter will immediately melt and escape. It still tastes as good, but if you have it in at high, 425, 450, if you really, really, really keep an eye on it, the outer crust immediately bakes and it captures the butter. And it's just so good. So I've done 2 turns.
So each time you're doing
with me and I can,
But each time you're doing the turn now, you're folding it like a brochure, right? Okay.
But just as important as you turn it 90 degrees, you just rotate it just to keep the butter from escaping.
Shallot. Just a little shallot.
So I'm turning it for the 3rd time, and I'm going to keep doing this until I'm done. I won't bake this tonight because to bake it, we're looking at 30, 45 minutes. But I have brought things that I have baked. I brought many of these, and then I cut up one of those strudels, so everyone will have some tonight.
Do you have the strudel with you?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's because you were describing the way it looks. Let's let everybody see it.
Okay,
So
it
that'd
is
be
cut
great.
Up.
Mm-hmm.
It
But
is.
you can still see it. You can still see it a little bit, right? Yeah, it'll be nice.
Can you get it?
Who can Riley can get it if you tell her where it is.
It's right over there. So I have lots of the pesto swirls, and if you can imagine this before it's cut up, this is just the length of, like a piece of paper kind of thing. Just put whatever you want in the middle, and then make those flaps. It can be anything, and then you just fold. I stopped at 3. I know that because I made 3 little impressions. Otherwise, I'd be going, oh, was that 3 or 4? And because I know what I'm doing, and because I've done it so many times in a controlled environment, like I say, I just keep going, plowing all the way through. But put it in the refrigerator. If you're not an expert, put it in the refrigerator, because in the battle of the rolling pin versus the pastry, I can tell you who will always win, and it's the pastry. And if you start tearing the layer, these are very thin layers. Let's say you torn a layer. You torn a layer. There's some damage. No more. Put some flour on it. Extremely forgiving recipe. You cannot go wrong. Pie crusts, some people can just bang them out. I get all tense about pie crusts. This is so joyful to me. I'm going to keep going.
Okay, I'll let you keep going, but I want you to just really quickly just go over it one more time.
3 to 1 ratio, 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1/4 of a cup of chilled water. You just smush it around, make a dough. Knead it 5 minutes. Roll it out to, I'm going to say 11 by 6. Take 1 stick of butter, cut it in thirds lengthwise, and you're just placing the butter. There's nothing fancy about how you place the butter. You can put it little polka dots, it doesn't matter, but this is the easiest way to just placing the butter. You put it on the right half of your pastry, fold it over like a book, roll it out, and then you start folding it like a letter or a brochure. So you're tripling the number of layers each time. Turn it 90 degrees to the right to keep the butter inside the little folds and edges. Roll it again, fold it like a brochure or a letter, turn it again. Keep doing that 6 times.
Perfect.
It's magic. It's so easy to make this. I can't tell you. People have said, "Oh, but you have to bang. What about the banging?" I said, there's no banging. It's soft, gentle. It's like a baby's bottom.
Yes, it's like a baby's bottom. It's a lovely baby's bottom. Beautiful,
So I'm
beautiful.
going to finish this.
Okay, and go ahead.
And then that's it.
Okay, so
High temperature.
go ahead. Yes.
When you bake it high temperature, otherwise the butter just escapes everywhere. 800 calories of butter.
You didn't need it to say that, actually. Okay, so here's the other thing.
And then I freeze this. It freezes indefinitely. And then you thaw it in the refrigerator. Next day, you've got it. It's just perfect.
Great. So if you're listening to the broadcast, not watching but listening, and you need to see Fran Clark's method of making puff pastry, you can just go to Fairfield. You can go to YouTube, right? YouTube /Fairfield Media Center, correct? YouTube /Fairfield Media Center, and that'll do it. Okay. I would like to, let's see, who's next? Pete DeSico, wherever you, oh, right, come on up. Tell us about your soup, peasant soup.
Well, I think that it could be actually more forgiving than Fran's pastry. Because she did say the pastry would win at one point.
Yeah.
With the peasant soup, the cook always wins.
Let's move a little closer over.
Okay, yes, yeah. With the peasant soup, the cook always wins. And so I call it peasant soup, but it's just
You have to get closer to me.
Okay.
I'm so sorry if you don't like to be close to me,
darling.
but you have to be, because otherwise Jason will yell at us.
Okay, it's a rustic soup, and it's a great soup because you can kind of look like making this soup like it's a painting, where the pot is kind of the canvas, and you take whatever around, whatever inspires you, and make the soup. Now, I like to start with, can I show you a few things?
Please show us.
I like to start with the Holy Trinity.
Now, this is a holiday show, so.
It's a holiday show, right?
Right.
And the Holy Trinity is basically onions, chop up a couple onions, and then garlic, which is in here somewhere. We'll find it in a minute. And celery. And then we like to put a little garlic in it.
Ginger.
A little ginger in it. We mix it up, make it more multidimensional. And then, and so you take these basics like the celery, the onion, the garlic, and carrots, and just saute them in a big iron pan. And I just use a little bit of oil. I like to be light on oil. And I used a high heat grapeseed oil this time. And I just saute them. I used a little bit of a good dry German white wine, not too expensive. And you caramelize them. Caramelizing vegetables is sauteing slowly until they slightly brown and all the sweetness comes out in them and all the minerals come out. You don't do, and then you actually put the garlic in later, because garlic you don't want to overcook.
Because it'll get bitter.
And actually what you want is the essence from all of the vegetables. You know, it's very, because it's like doing a smoothie. You know, you want to do a healthy smoothie. A really good soup at night is like doing a smoothie, especially if you put the magic wand in it and, blend it up a little bit. So that's kind of what I start with. And that's your base. That's like the base colors. And then, I decide, okay, what spices feel right? So tonight we put in a good amount of turmeric, because it's winter, and cardamom, coriander, and fenugreek. And you put those in a little later, add a little bit more oil or fat to it, butter or coconut oil, whatever you want, and let that blend in just like a curry. And since we're multicultural here, multidimensional town, I like to also then, put in some Mediterranean spices.
Okay, this is becoming even more interesting.
Yeah,
I'm so far now right where if I'm listening to a symphony, I think the dissonance just started, but I'm not sure.
Well, you'll see how it tastes.
Right, I know.
Believe me, you'll see how it tastes. See, those early group of spices, number one, there's nothing too pungent in there, and they blend in and they become a base, almost like a base color.
So are those powdered?
They're powdered. I grind my own spices, so they're coarsely ground. So it's not like, and they're potent, but they blend in and it becomes like a base color on the canvas of what you're cooking. And they add some type of intensity to the nutrition. And you can then move them in different directions. It's not like Indian cooking where there's an intensity to it, and often, I'm not using anything pungent here. Okay.
I love the way you're describing this because it's like this manipulation of this dish, and I love just the whole thing about nudging it in a different direction and the direction that you want. And I want to just ask about the spices. Another thing, which is, are you just adding them powdered, or are they? And do you put them in oil to warm them up, or how do you do it?
That's a good question. I start with that base of sauteing, caramelizing. And the thing with spices, you don't want to start with them because you burn the flavor and the energy or the intensity out of them. Spices are always put in later. That's the secret. Often, even in India or in the Mediterranean, they'll take them and put them in right at the end. And so that there's a real flavor of spice that's there and intensity of it because they're delicate. And so what I do is I have the saute. I wish we could do it, but it's a busy show tonight, so we can't be taking up the whole place, cutting stuff and all that. But it's there, and you add a little bit more oil in it, and then you just put them on that and stir them around with the oil. And then before they get too hot with the bottom of the pan, I'll add coconut milk or whatever. Maybe it's chicken broth if you want to go in that direction. And again, a soup like this can go anywhere. You could make it into a fish type of thing with shellfish if you're someone from New England on the Cape Cod, or you can if you're a Midwestern farmer, you could put sausage in it. You could do anything once you have the basic structure of the canvas of what you're cooking. So that's what I do. The spices go in, and then I put in coconut milk and add water because I like to make a simple soup at night that's not too intense but is nutritious. And then you let that simmer. You let that simmer in. And then any Mediterranean spices go in even later because they're even more delicate, green stuff, compared to more intense, coriander or cardamom. And so you kind of keep, it's like painting. You add layers to the flavor and you taste it. Brags or a little umami. How do you say that word? A little umami can be added at that point. Then you add a little salt, a little pepper. You move it all forward, move it all forward. And so that you end up with The other thing which I like to put in at the end, so I make this a liquid, and you'll see it right now, and then we're going to really put it together, is at the same time I took greens that's actually grown in my garden that I picked before Thanksgiving, before the really cold weather came, and I steamed them and chopped them. It's kale. Late season kale is incredibly powerful. It's been growing all year. It sucked up all the energy. And it's a little bitter, but it's good stuff. And then I also took, and this can be in a variety of things. You want a kind of a base vegetable to give texture. Because what we made initially is really like making a veggie stock, a flavorful stock. Now you want to put more nutrition and texture into it. So we said, hey, you want to put fish in it, you can put this, that, and that. We're going pure veggie, mostly vegan here tonight. And so I took like a medley of root vegetables, parsnips, celery root, which is very intense and wonderful, things like that, And I decided often I'll use mushrooms, like portobellos, dice them, put them in there. And if you're going to use mushrooms, saute them with the earlier grouping of onions and all that. Mushrooms is a great thing. What I decided to do tonight, add potatoes instead. Move it in the sweet direction a little bit. And so what we have is we have the chopped greens right here, and which I started putting in, but I said, hey, we're going to mix this here in front of everybody tonight.
Now, did you saute those, or did you just?
No, what I do is this. I take the leaves, just put them in a big pot and boil them, and then I chop them. I take the bitter.
Salt in the water?
Don't do anything. I just chop. I don't like to oversalt, right? We're at the age we don't want to oversalt, right?
I'm not sure about that, but okay. No, you don't want to oversalt. You're right.
No one should be oversalted.
You want to salt enough.
You want to salt enough, though. You want to bring the flavor out. And so that's it. I saute them, and then I squeeze the liquid out, the bitterness, and then I chop it. And so what we do here also is this is the root vegetables that weren't put in the initial thing. So what we're going to do, we're going to put this, and now this is, if we can see it, I don't know if everyone can see it, I'll walk it around. Shall I walk it around for a minute?
Actually, if you just go right there, I think, and then try to tip it as well as you can.
Is there a spoon here? Is there a spoon that someone can get?
Christy can get a spoon for us.
She'll
get a spoon for us, yes.
So basically this is...
It smells so good, Pete.
Yeah, it is really...
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, it's really...
That was really tough. Thanks a lot.
So you can see we have this, I put a little bit of the kale in it just to kind of get it going. But you see it's very rustic, and there's all this stuff that's been kind of blended in here and just cooked, and it allowed to kind of cook together, and all the spices are in there. So all the intensity of the flavor is in there. And so this is like a super smoothie. It's a dinner smoothie. That's the way we're going to do it. We're going to take this magic wand here, and we're going to start blending all this stuff together. So I think we're going to have to go to this side. And so what?
And then you add more water to that?
As needed, yes. And so you build it together. So we're going to take this stuff here. This is the root vegetables, the parsnips, the rutabaga, and potatoes. And we're going to put those in. And then we're going to put... someone could get like a couple cups of water that we can add as necessary. And I just kind of throw things together. And
so basically what you're doing is you're adding all the vegetables that you cooked off but were waiting to put in at the end here before you blend it all up.
You got it. And that way you can, and mainly it's just really convenient. So now we have this liquid here that's like a stew. You could serve it this way. It's like a stew.
Yeah, you could serve it over rice.
You could serve it over, it's like, it's a stew, and it's really wonderful. We'll keep that on the side. Now, the other thing which I'm going to do at the end is I always think it's terrific right before you serve something to put something raw and fresh on it, especially in the winter. Get some vitamin C, get some other good stuff. And so I brought lemons. We're going to put lemon juice on it.
Adds a nice hint of acidity to it.
We need some acidity. When you're dealing with potatoes and root vegetables and coconut oil, it's great to get a little sharp acidity. If you had the right balsamic vinegar, that could also be used. And then the other thing I like to do, this is a beautiful purple daikon radish that I got from the new Pioneer Co-op up in Iowa City. They have locally grown stuff up there that's really cool. And so we're going to grate that in And we're going to put chopped fresh parsley in it also. So you serve it garnished with grated radish, parsley, fresh lemon juice, and fresh olive oil on top that hasn't been cooked.
Sounds
Does that
absolutely
sound
wonderful.
fantastic?
Sounds fantastic. Yeah.
Okay.
Smell, I'm sure since smell is most of taste is smell, it's going to be great. Now, what's the texture going to be like?
Well, that's a choice we have. You know, there's a couple ways to go. I'm not, you know, someone could put this in a Vita mix or a blender and turn it into like, you know, like a smoothie that's milky almost. I prefer, or you could put it into a food processor. I just find this is really convenient.
The hand blender.
The hand blender, because you're not making a whole bunch of stuff dirty and it gets stick to the sides, stick to the blades. And this does almost as well as a food processor. And quite frankly, I like the more rustic quality and texture of a soup like this, because remember, this is peasant soup. You know, this is not high-end French cooking.
Awesome. Can't wait to taste that.
It's like folk art. You know, you can't make a mistake with folk art. It's hard to make a mistake with peasant soup.
Well, you know, here's the thing. This is a really important, critical point.
Yes.
Most people, many people, don't feel comfortable playing in the kitchen. What you're trying to communicate to people
Absolutely.
is that they can go in, take some different things out of the refrigerator, start to put them together just like they were making a painting, and then look at it, taste it, try to figure out what might go with it to enhance it and create something out of
And
it.
think about how you're going to do it. There's basic ways of cooking quickly that you can do. Like first, hey, it's a great idea to think, hey, a big pot, get a big pot out, and that's your canvas. And it's almost like mixing paints. You might want to mix the yellow in this pot, mix the red in that pot. So often what I'll do, so to give you a how to do this effectively, you get out a saute. I have a big iron saute pot, and I start by just putting a little oil in it, and those first items, the garlic, onion, celery, carrots, that stuff goes in there, and you saute it, you watch it, put a little water in it, a little liquid if you want, and you get that going. And then I take the root vegetables here, I just chop them and steam them. So you know, a lot of people think they have to mix everything together. You mix it together at the end, and the flavors blend better than cooking everything together for an hour. Okay? You keep the freshness of each item. So what I do is there's a second pot where you just steam the root vegetables. You dice them, kind of like sizes like this. Potatoes.
Size, just a large cube, basically.
Large cubes, real quick. Just take the skins off of them. And because everything's boiling, you know, you don't have to worry. You wash everything, obviously, but you don't have to worry about skinning everything perfectly, you know. Just, again, it's rustic. And steam that. And then at the same time, you have another pot, and you can put the greens in it, or put the greens on top of the root vegetables, you know. So anyhow, you got your stuff going, and then you bring it into one wholeness, so to speak. It's like you bring it all into the canvas. And the great thing about this type of art is you eat it. You don't have to have people look at it.
I like that. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. So we'll let you finish that off.
Okay.
And I'm going to just mention something that I made for lunch today, because Pete's right. You know, when you do this, if you keep your vegetables separate, like he's saying, cooking them separately, you're going to enhance the flavors of each of those vegetables, as opposed to putting them all together where you might lose some flavor. However, if you want to move a little quicker because you have a need to do that. So for example, in a high-end restaurant, if they were going to roast vegetables and serve you a roasted vegetable dish, they would be roasting each of those vegetables separately to the specifics, you know, based on the specifics of each of those vegetables, with the right type of whatever herbs they wanted to use with them, to put the perfect heat for that particular vegetable and the way that it was sliced or cut, all those types of things. But if you're, like many of us are, and are very busy, what you can do before you go about your business, whether it's you're going to work or whether you're going to the gym or whether you're doing something else, is you can cut up all your vegetables like we did this morning. So we cut up beets, carrots, potato, celery root, garlic, was there anything else in there? Onion, shallot actually, and there may have been one or two other vegetables, I'm not sure. And we mixed it all with salt and pepper, with dried marjoram, dried thyme, and dried oregano, and put it in a casserole dish, covered it, threw it in the oven at 425 degrees for an hour and a half while we went out and did whatever we wanted, and came home and ate it. It was absolutely amazing. So that's what you can do in really simple. You probably will lose a little bit of that individuality of those vegetables, but you'll have made something really great that you don't have to worry about. So in the wintertime, my wife was saying today, she said, this is like an ideal winter dish, roasted vegetables, roasted root vegetables, just fantastic. So anyway.
Excellent.
All right.
So now we're going to, should I move right to the middle here?
You can do whatever you want. By the way, you're listening or watching Great Taste on, well, you may be on YouTube or you may be on KICI 105.3 in Iowa City, wherever you are, whether you're listening or watching. We're here for 60 minutes of delicious radio every week actually, and we're at Green Building Supply every week. No, we're not. We're at Green Building Supply every month, the first Tuesday of every month. And I want to thank our sponsors, Green Building Supply at Everybody's Whole Foods, where all the other ingredients came from other than that parsnip or whatever that was, that purple thing.
Purple daikon radish.
Right. And yes, which I want to taste that by itself, actually. Yeah. So one other thing that I want to mention, very important, the first Tuesday in January is January 1st. Sorry, we're not going to be here on January 1st. Actually, we're going to take a holiday and we're going to skip the January show. So the next show will be February the 5th, the first Tuesday of February the 5th. Okay. All right, so tell people what you're going to do, and then we're going to get Elisabetta and Carlotta to come up here.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just blending this now. Too bad we don't have one of these cameras that can. So now
we'll have Jason put in his budget.
Okay, so basically we're blending now, and this is simply food processing. And then we'll add a little more water to it and heat it up and finish it with the radish and parsley and the lemon and the olive oil. And then everyone can have something that's quite wonderful and nurturing.
Perfect. All right, ladies, can you come up? Everybody who's listened to this show or watched this show is familiar, I'm sure. They are familiar with these young ladies, Elisabetta and Carlotta Forte-Calati. They've been on the show. This is like your third or fourth time, right? Isn't that right? Yeah. And so really excited to have you here. Now, it's a little bit different because usually you're actually cooking, but both of you prepared a dish and brought it. So do you want to get your dishes and so you can show them? That would be great. And I have to warn all of you, don't ask Elisabetta how she made hers, because it's a family recipe, and I'm told that there could be dire circumstances if anybody finds out how it was done. So anyway, these are the two dishes. So Carlotta, what do you have here?
Well, I have mini onions.
You want to hold them up?
I don't know how to say this in English because usually
Cipolline agrodolce. That's English, right?
baby English.
Right. Sweet and sour onions.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I don't know the history of it.
No, you don't need to know the history, but why are there two different colors here?
Oh, well, they're cooked together, but they're just different colors because they're different.
Different onions?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us how you did this.
Well, there's no measurements. It's just with eye. And what you do is you peel the onions and you put them in a pan. Then
You're cutting them up into, how are you cutting them?
You don't cut them.
Oh, you're not cutting them whole. All right.
And then what you do is you put water and some lemon in it, and you let it cook a little bit on medium. How do you say?
Yeah, medium heat.
Yeah, medium heat. And then you add sugar, and you let it. No, you add sugar, and then you let it still cook until
Caramelizes.
Yeah, caramelizes.
Okay. So let me just see if we can. I understand it's by eye, but if you'd used, say, 2 onions, all right, about how much water, about how much sugar are you going to put in?
I'd say about 1 cup.
Okay. 1 cup of water, and then sugar just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
There seems to be she doesn't. Elisabetta doesn't think that you're putting a cup of water in, but if you were putting the onion in the pot, all right, how high is the water going to go?
About this much.
No.
These are sisters, so it's not a.
This.
Okay, so we're going to cover about half the onion. Is that right?
Yeah.
About half the onion. We're going to cover about half the onion in the pot. I'm trying to describe it also because, see, we have a radio audience also, and so they can't see Elisabetta making little things with her fingers or whatever, you know. So anyway, so we're going to do that. And do you have any idea about how long we're going to cook these?
Well, about 1 hour and a half.
Okay. So on medium heat still?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens? They get very soft, right?
Well, you have to wait until all the water and the lemon vaporizes.
Okay, so I'm glad you caught me here. About how much lemon are we putting in?
About 1.
About 1 lemon. It's just the juice of 1 lemon?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to wait. You're going to cook it slowly, probably on medium, probably on low then, very low heat, till all the water evaporates, right? Okay. And then what's going to happen? Obviously, it's going to be very well cooked.
No, magkakaroon kami si Kadiyadjun.
So we have a debate going on.
Yeah, they're done. After the water vaporizes,
Okay.
they're kind of done. You just need to put them in a plate and let them rest.
So in other words, they'll essentially separate into little pieces like this? Or do you have to cut them?
No, you have to cut them.
So you have to cut them. Okay. So because this is very beautiful. So it's very small pieces. They're bite-sized essentially.
Well, you cut them halfway, like when they're cooking.
Oh.
Not like at the beginning.
So after it's been cooking for a little while, you're actually cutting them. So you take them out of the pot?
No.
Cut them? No.
What I did was I took kitchen scissors and I just cut all of them.
Oh, okay. How many in half? So you cut the onions in half with the kitchen scissors about halfway through the cooking process. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Beautiful. So I can't wait to try this. But so this would be served as an antipasto, right? So it's an appetizer.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's an idea for your holiday parties, an antipasto, cipolline agrodolce, sweet and sour onions. Okay. Now let me be in the middle here. Okay, Elisabetta, tell us about this gorgeous cake.
So it's kind of like a sponge, but you have to mix different the ingredients. So the step by step is different than making a sponge. Then you don't press the apples, like you don't mix the apples in the batch.
Okay, so it's an apple cake.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of like an apple cake. Okay. What's its name?
Torta dell'Ottorgai.
Okay.
Okay, I know it sounds weird, but yeah. So you don't mix the apples in the batch, but what you do is you cut them, and then you put them on. You don't press them in, because then they're gonna how do you say
Sink.
So even if this is a thick batch.
So if the batter's very thick.
Yeah, it depends if it sinks or not. But I just usually put it on the top and just let it.
So if you can, obviously those of you who are watching this, you can see that there's apples slices on the top. And so basically you're just saying that you very gently lay them on top in one layer. Is that what you do? Just one layer? You cover one layer? Okay.
Yes. Until everything is covered. Then you cook it. Then you put if you have a knife or a fork or the toothpick, you just put it in, see if it's ready, and then you can perfectly be how do you say yes
Oh, you're just testing to see if it's ready? No.
You can choose if to put powdered sugar on, if you use whipped cream or not.
Oh, to finish it.
Yes, or just leave it plain.
Okay. So the reason we're not describing this very thoroughly is because I was told this is a family recipe. So we're only able to say that it's like a sponge cake mix. So anybody can look up a sponge cake mix. And you're slicing apples and putting them on top, and then you're finishing it with powdered sugar or whipped cream or whatever, right? That's we can't learn anymore because otherwise we might have to be killed, I suppose.
Yes, very much.
Okay, is there anything else you can tell us about the history of this in your family?
My grandma learned this when she went to her cuisine courses, and then she decided to continuously make it. And so practically she's the only one in the family that has the recipe, and my mom asked her to give it to us. Since we're family, we can. And then she just...
And she did?
Yes.
And you think she gave you all the ingredients? Because I've heard that that's a problem sometimes with nonas. They don't give all the ingredients, you know?
She did.
Okay.
She did.
And so when do you typically serve this? Is it something you have all the time, or is it something that you have only at holiday time?
It depends. You can choose. Right now, my mom and I were making it a lot of times, so it just depends if you want to make it during the summer, during the winter, during different seasons.
Apple season's a good time, probably, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's great. We can't wait. We're going to try these a little bit later, and it'll be just lovely. And when you guys are going to Italy soon?
Yes, the 16th.
16th. So learn something new, and come back, and we'll do the show in the spring, right? That'll be fun. Maybe.
We don't know.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened. I thought you were excited to do the show, so it's like, okay, that'll be fun. So that's really, really, really good. Thank you, ladies, very much. Oh my gosh, let's just put it this way: I have to be very careful about what I say because of this family recipe. So she just wanted to remind me again. So I'm not sure what kind of connections they have, but let's just leave it. Okay. Thank you. We'll see you later, and I'll be careful. Okay, Peter, come on up. Peter Maxwell is here. He has a special treat for us. Peter is going to present a Squashmas special. And we're going to let him explain what that's all about. So,
hi everyone, I'm Peter Maxwell. I do singing food puppets on YouTube, and they're actually about to do the show for me, so what a relief. I don't have to do a thing. But thank you so much, Steve.
Do you want to introduce us to any of these, or?
Well, that's actually, you'll be introduced in the course of the song. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sing a little song. It's going to be basically mostly a punch recipe my mom made every Christmas, and I made a few modifications just for fun and to get it up to 12, because I will be singing it to 12 days of Christmas, aka Squashmas. And here we go.
And just before you get started, I just want to ask you: this is something you've kind of designed. You're working on designing something because you're designing these presentations for young people to help them learn to cook. Is that right?
Yes. Personally, I find it really hard to remember a 3-ingredient recipe and really easy to remember every SpongeBob episode I ever saw. So I thought if I could make a really cute, cartoony version of a recipe with puppets, then maybe I can remember it. And if I can remember it, then I'm sure a kid can remember it. And that is the goal.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Go for it.
All right. So I've got one puppet is 2-dimensional. She didn't quite make it in one piece. I just got to set her up here for a second.
You can move that stuff out of the way. It's absolutely fine. And I'll move this closer to me because I wouldn't want anyone else to be in the way of having some kind of dangerous thing happen to them if they talked about the cake in the wrong. Well, it's
talking about it?
Yeah, no, I'm not mentioning it. I'm absolutely not talking about it. Thank you for reminding me. Because I was actually, it was kind of scary actually when Elisabetta was getting ready to leave. When she whispered to me, I was a little concerned about it. You can see I'm a little nervous. I'm kind of, I really thought she was a nice person, but anyway, all right.
All right, so here we go. I am Dr. Squashtopus. Here's celebrating this year's Squashmas. I have a recipe that I simply must share, though it's a little weird. I hope you'll care. Tonight I've made a punch, and it's a little bit odd, but I promise you won't regret it if you try. So now I will yield the floor to this little green pod. I am the green bean ghoul, and I run a YouTube school. Don't listen to that old squashy fool. This punch will make you drool. So now it's time to teach you, although I can't really reach you, so I hope you can see okay. Anyway, let's go. On the first day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the second day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 2 oranges and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the third day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the fourth day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the fifth day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 5 beat boxes, 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the sixth day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 6 ounces cranberry Craigs, 5 beat boxes, 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the seventh day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 7 cherry bim, 6 ounces cranberry Craigs, 5 beat boxes, 4 sticks of cinnamon, 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the 8th day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 8 date demons. 7 cherry bim, 6 cranberry Craigs, 5 beat boxes, 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the 9th day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 9 rags of lemon mummies, 8 date demons, 7 cherry bim, 6 cranberry Craigs, 5 beat boxes, 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the 10th day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 10 half teaspoons ginger gremlins, 9 rags of lemon mummies, 8 date demons, 7 cherry bim, 6 cranberry Craigs, 5 beat boxes, 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MC imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the 11th day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashtopus gave to me 11 horns of cloven devils, 10 half teaspoons ginger gremlins, 9 rags of lemon mummies, 8 date demons, 7 cherry bim, 6 cranberry Craigs, 5 beatboxes. 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MCM imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. On the 12th day of Squashmas, Dr. Squashmas gave to me 12 cups of bomb and apple cider, 11 cloven devils, 10 half teaspoons ginger gremlins, 9 rags of lemon mummies, 8 date demons, 7 cherry bim, 6 cranberry crags, 5 beatboxes, 4 sticks from the cinnamon gin, 3 MCM imitators, 2 oranges, and a cup of milk from the coconut queen. Well, now you know how to make this punch. I hope you make it at least once. Dr. Squashtopus? Oh, my. All that's left to say is happy Squashmas. Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you. I'm Peter Maxwell. This is what I do.
Carlotta, could you bring that over so you could look at it? In the pot right there? You see the pot right there? That pot has the that's the recipe. That's everything in there. Thank you. So this is the punch. So there it is. Can you see that? Can we see it, Jason? Not really. How far can we go? Down. Can we see it now? Yeah.
I see it.
Okay.
Smells delicious.
All right. Well, we can't wait to try it. Now, do we blend anything up here, or how does that work?
No, we just need to strain it. So everything goes in whole, basically, except the beets, you really just slice, like you see how this big beet has it sliced off. You just slice off the edges like that. You don't need so much. Then it all goes in there. You strain it out. It only needs it's good to do about 2 hours on low heat and let everything kind of blend together. And it's surprisingly good for how weird it is.
All right. Well, we can't wait to try it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
thanks
much,
a lot.
Steve. I really
Hey, Jan, do you want to talk about your cookies? Can you tell us? You can't do it over there. You have to come up here. No, sorry. While you're coming up, I'll tell everybody about the potato latkes because some people got some. And I want to suggest that Christy puts, where's Fran? I want to suggest that Christy puts the puff pastry in the oven to warm up a little bit. Where is Fran? Is she here? Oh, should we put the puff pastry in the oven to warm up a little bit? Yeah, I think it's heated, right, Riley? Oh, well, we'll put it on something else then. We'll put it on something else. So it's not on. Well, she's going to heat up the oven then. She'll turn the oven up. So you brought these. We have to go this way a little bit, but you brought these great cookies.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, this is the first, I just saw this recipe and I thought cardamom tea cookies sounded like it would be wonderful. So I tried them. I think it needs a bit more cardamom if anyone makes it. I did bring some recipes here if anyone wants to take it. But
Jan's always showing us up because this is the second time she always brings recipes, and anybody who asks me, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I got it. I got the message. You still aren't going to get any recipes.
But it's kind of like a shortbread taste. You tried it. Don't you think it's
Delicious,
kind of like
yeah.
a shortbread? It does have an egg yolk in it, so if anyone is staying away from egg. But otherwise, pretty simple ingredients. Flour, sugar, butter, all organic, cardamom, a little salt, baking soda, I think.
I'll bet you got the ingredients from everybody's.
I
Right?
did. I did. So enjoy.
Yeah, thank you so much. And cardamom it's really tricky. You have to be careful because if you get a little bit too much, it kind of spoils the whole thing,
That's why I
right?
was really cautious with it, which is why it probably needs a little more.
No, it's really good.
I didn't roll it in sugar like the recipe says. I made a glaze and put a little cardamom in the glaze as well.
So if you were here last month, Jan made an amazing, I don't know, you call it a relish? Would you call it a cranberry relish? It was quite extraordinary, and there's so many different ways to do that, but hers was just fantastic. So those people who got here early were able to enjoy the amuse-bouche that we had, which was potato latkes, And I was asked, well, why are these different than hash browns? So I want to explain. Most people, when they make potato latkes, potato latkes is something that is usually served this time of year when the celebration of Hanukkah takes place in Jewish households. And so what you do is you take potatoes, you grate them, and then you mix them up. Most people use egg, flour, salt, pepper, and onion, and they make them that way. And sometimes they grate them in a food processor. Some people hand grate them. Some people just buy frozen shredded potatoes and do it that way. So all different ways, but those are the basic ingredients. Potatoes, shredded potatoes, onion, salt, pepper, egg, and flour. All right? I don't do it that way though. So I do shredded potatoes, which I put into the Cuisinart just before I'm going to make this because I don't like to do it. Potatoes are just something that you want to do fresh, that's all. And then I mix just a little bit of salt and pepper in, and I use shallot because I love the taste of shallot. I think it adds a really nice flavor as opposed to just onion. And then I, just grab a handful and throw it in the pan. And that's what we're going to do as soon as we're off the air. We're going to grab more handfuls and throw it in the pan so that everybody who didn't have some can have some. And one of the questions that I had was, well, how do they stick together? Well, they do, because potatoes are starchy. So the best potato to use is a russet, because russets have more starch than any other type of potato. And it's, for some things you might want to rinse off that starch more, but for this particular purpose you don't want to do that. So if you're going to do it really immediately, you could even not rinse the potato at all. But the truth is that potatoes have a lot of moisture, so a very critical step in doing this is after you grate the potatoes, you have to take them and wrap them in a cloth and just squeeze as hard as you can to get the moisture out. And that will allow you to make a potato pancake that will stick together. Some people, if they use onions, they're going to do the same thing, but I don't find it necessary with the shallot. It's not necessary to squeeze the water out of that shallot. It's fine. So very, very simple recipe. It's all there is to it, is just some shredded potatoes, russets mainly, the best potato to use, salt, pepper, a little bit of shallot, and just hot. We used this evening, for the show, we used a combination of grapeseed oil and clarified butter to fry them in. We don't deep fry them. We just use a little bit more than maybe, a quarter of an inch of oil at the bottom of the pan. And that's it. Very simple. Also, we had applesauce. I made applesauce, which it's pretty good. Doesn't take anything to make applesauce. Anybody knows how to do that. That's so simple. You just take some apples, cut them up, and throw them in a pot and let them basically cook down a little bit. I like to use I have a muesli that I use. Yeah, it's a muesli food meal. I like to do that. If you want something chunkier, muesli has several different grades of, straining. But I think that with the potato pancakes, the latkes, because they're crispy, I don't think that a chunky applesauce is the best thing to go with it. So that's why I made this kind. And then the last thing is sour cream, which is great to use in there. So that's it. Really simple. Thank you all so much for coming. I think that if I'm timing things right, we're getting close to the end here, right, Jason? So I just want to remind everybody one more time that we aren't going to be doing the show in January because it's January 1st. The show is always the first Tuesday of every month. So we're not going to be here January 1st, sorry. And we're going to take a month holiday, February the 5th. Could everybody who's been on the show come up real quick so that we can just say everybody can acknowledge you really quickly? You've been there, done that. That's great. So thank you all so much. Come on in close because otherwise I can't see you. Fran, thank you so much. Come closer. Nobody can see you over there. All right. So you've been listening to Great Taste or watching Great Taste. And it's been a presentation of Fairfield Media Center, sponsored by Green Building Supply and Everybody's Whole Foods. Thank you all very much for coming. I'm Steve Bosch, your host, every week for 60 minutes of delicious radio or whatever this nonsense is on YouTube. So, thank you.
Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.